Okay, so now we get to grips with some of the big social media trends this week, and there was a lot for people to talk about. So we're going to wade through that right now with Ayanda Sishi Wigzell, independent journalist and all-around fabulous intellectual. Good evening to you, and lovely to have you with us. So we're going to talk about Thuli Madonsela, but of course we're going to add in Dali Mpofu into the mix there because something happened this week. And we'll remind our viewers in case they didn't get to see it.
Get to be part of the reshuffle in our panel, Chairperson. The
Mpofu here at M46. The evidence
drafted by Mr. Godan. He himself says.
Okay, so our clip wasn't all that it promised to be, but essentially they locked horns also about the legitimacy of her advocacy, which sparked a whole lot of debate. But a lot of people were just talking about the way that he treated, and she saying to him basically that he sunk to new lows. Share the context with us. We know that it was the Mqwebane inquiry. Yes. Take it away.
Good evening to you, Iman. Good evening to all of the SABC viewers. Yes, this week, Thuli Madonsela was trending on social media because of the way that she testified in the Section 194 inquiry into Busisiwe Mqwebane's fitness to hold office in the as the public protector. So people were commenting on the way it is that Thuli Madonsela was treated throughout her tenure as the public protector, and as well during this cross-examination, because they believe that Advocate Dali Mpofu did cross a line in his cross-examination, bringing into question her professionalism as an advocate, as well as questioning her tenure as public protector. And people were saying that it's actually not her that is on trial, but it's actually Busisiwe Mqwebane who is right now being questioned for her conduct. So people were really interested as to why it is that Dali Mpofu chose this direction of cross-examination, whether or not it is going to be to the benefit of Busisiwe Mqwebane to actually do this. But people were also praising Thuli Madonsela for the way that she handled herself during that cross-examination, and reminding Dali Mpofu that, you can't sink to such lows, especially with black women in this profession. And we're really reminded that it's really difficult for black women to be in these kinds of positions during and after their tenure.
And the facts are?
And the facts are that Thuli Madonsela is indeed an advocate, and she is registered with the legal practicing council, and they did announce that she is in fact registered on their roll. So that that fact has definitely been quelled. But the fact that it was even brought into question really is devastating and really kind of sad when we see that she's also insulted for the way that she looks, the way that her hair is as well.
Unacceptable and unbelievable.
And Exactly. But she's not questioned and not questioned and criticized on the actual work that she did do. So again, this is really going to be to the detriment of Busisiwe Mqwebane when it comes to the decision-making process, because this testimony did not do her any favors.
And I mean, you saw in response to that, a lot of people, cheering Dali Mpofu on in terms of the question of her credentials.
Sadly so.
Let's talk about one of the big stories this week is the Nahawu strike, and we cannot underestimate the devastating impact that it has had around the country, and mixed views. It's divided public sentiment because there are legitimate issues here around union rights and worker rights, and some of the betrayals that they've experienced from government insofar as their wage negotiation struggles have been dating back to 2018. So why was this Joe Patla and help basically big stories on the social trends this week?
So on social media, people were questioning what actually happened before they reached strike action now. So what were the meetings, what kind of meetings were taking place between NEHAW and between government as the stakeholder and as the employer in charge of all people in public hospitals? Because we know that in public hospitals, they're dealing with under-resourced staff. The infrastructure is bad. I was listening to an interview coming from Mpumalanga where they were talking about how there is water that comes from these ceilings when it rains. And this is in public institutions where we know that money is being allocated to make sure that there is maintenance that is done in these hospitals. So we're also talking about corruption as well. And this is what social media users were talking about, that the strike is necessary because of those factors and the fact that workers have reached their wits' end. But at the same time, strikes are very, very violent. And the nature of this strike in particular is violent because of the fact that we now know that patients have been blocked from going into hospitals. And we've seen videos coming out, particularly on Twitter, from different provinces, particularly in the Vaal. We saw a pregnant woman being blocked from coming, from entering into hospitals. And we know that the Minister of Health, Joe Patla, in press briefing was saying that, pregnant women have had to, elected C-sections have had to be called off because of this strike. But at the same time, people are talking about the fact that corruption happens, and we know that what happened to Badita Dirakan, who was killed for blowing the whistle on the corruption that was happening in Tembisa Hospital. So this strike is really difficult. It's difficult for people to kind of comprehend it. And this is the psyche of South Africans in general. We are dealing with so much.
Yeah, we are dealing with so much. And then we're going to round it off with the cabinet reshuffle because, and I'm glad we did it that way, because there are so many deep systemic structural problems in our country. You need good people to resolve it and untie the knot that is dysfunction and corruption. How did, people, social media users, discuss and debate? Well, first of all, the endless waiting. That was a start.
Yes, that was a start. After an influenza infection, after many delays from the president, he finally did reshuffle his cabinet. And people were extremely disappointed considering how long they've had to wait. We are seeing names like Mr. David Mahlobo, we are seeing Ms. Dipuo Peters, and these were names that were mentioned in state capture. So we have to ask the question, is this going to be a cabinet of ethics, or is it going to be a cabinet that is going to keep the president in power with him shaking and giving people a golden handshake for voting him back into power as president of the African National Congress, and also protecting him against the Section 89 panel into the Phala issue as well. So people are questioning on social media, why did this cabinet reshuffle have to happen in the first place? We also know that we have a new Minister of Electricity, and many people are questioning, why is it that we have to add another ministry onto something that is already seen as being inflated? People are tired of the politicking that is happening right now. They're not seeing government actually work for them, but they're thinking that government is working against them.
Speaking of politics, good turn of phrase. Talk about it in relation to Tshwane, another big topic, lurching from problem to problem. Can't seem to hold on to their mayor or their speaker.
Absolutely not. Local government is in disaster in South Africa. We heard earlier from the Auditor General speaking about local government and the finances that are coming out of that. But in Tshwane, we know that Dr. Makurela has now has now resigned from the mayorship again for the second time this week, because he admitted a fake document that was saying,
some would say Isbindi.
The audacity and the gall is what I would call it, to submit a fake document to the city manager in order for you to keep your position. But many people are questioning, as you saw the previous tweets from your question of the day, people are questioning, why is it that they are doing this? Who exactly are they doing it for? Are they doing it to hold on to power, or are they doing it for the people of Tshwane? But we are seeing right now in local government that the people and the cities and the residents are being put on the back burner so that so that certain people can attain power within a faction and within different organizations.
I mean, I raised the issue, and someone just talking about unrehabilitated, insolvent, and a forgerer. The issue, if somebody fell on hard times, something bad happened. We know the economy's been bad, but then you take steps to rehabilitate yourself legitimately, and you do something to restore your credibility, people will have a lot more sympathy for you. But if you lie and then you go on top of that and create a document that was patently clear, from what we understand from those who know these things, to have been a forgery, you've completely shot yourself in the foot.
Absolutely, and people are just so tired of seeing service delivery being put on the back burner, of making sure that metros are brought back to certain political organizations, and by this I'm talking about the African National Congress. You must not take away from the fact that it was a mandate from the provincial government of the African National Congress, when they had their conference, to make sure that they bring the metros back into the fold. And we are seeing right now an invisible hand that is working to make sure that smaller political parties are gaining these positions. But we know that there are big organizations that are contributing to those votes. And what we are seeing here is the politicking and the playing of politics, but at the expense of people who are on the ground. So my question is that people need to actually watch these developments happening, because come 2024, people are going to see the results of people's anger on anger at the developments that are happening right now in government, because people are tired. The cost of living is rising astronomically higher, and people are actually dealing with the lack of service delivery and potholes on the ground. We are seeing hospitals people going on strike in hospitals and students as well. Something has to give. And 2024, we are going to see many changes coming to the fore.
Something has to give, and it can't be the back of citizens and people who rely on good governance.
Absolutely.
Ayanda, it's always lovely to talk to you. Thank you for being with us again tonight. Ayanda Sishi Wigzell, who is an independent journalist.